Welcome to an Abomi Nation review. Now, to get things started, let's start off simple. What is Abomi Nation? Abomi Nation is a monster-taming roguelike game that has elements of Nuzlocke from Pokemon. If you're not familiar with that, you get randomized teams. You have to take whatever the first creature you find in a zone is. Each of these creatures have their own personality types. They actually talk to you. You can name them and grow attached to them. Each of these creatures also goes into battle into a permadeath mode. The permadeath is toggleable, but by default, you'll be playing on procedurally generated islands where you go through and fight to the death with other Abomis. When one of your Abomis dies, they leave behind a tombstone. This tombstone can be visited by your other Abomis to see when and where they died, and you can also copy that code, share it on the Steam, Discord, or wherever you want, so that your others can resurrect them in their games. You cannot resurrect them in your own game, but they can see life in other people's games. Of course, you can also see this life in your own games as you summon them to your world from other people's worlds as well. Now, for the different aspects of Abomi Nation, we'll be covering graphics, gameplay, sound, and story, the four pillars of what makes a game great. To start off, we have gameplay. As you can see here, it is a type-based gameplay. Water deals extra damage to fire, and so on and so forth, like many things you've seen before. There's nothing really revolutionary about the typing in here besides that each zone is themed to a type and you don't get to pick your team. So like right here, you get to recruit a fire earth type, which is 4 times 4 weak to water. So you're probably going to get close to a one-shot, if not literally one-shotting them. And after you recruit them, then they're on your team now until they die. And that's how you get more Abomis and various types of Abomis. So the combat is very tactical. You can swap. You have up to two Abomis in your back row that can be targeted by certain attacks. You can also buff them with certain attacks. And then they have a friendship meter as well that you can level up that gives various bonuses if they're on the field with your other Abomis. It's very important to keep track of these things because you can and will have some of your Abomis die on the field if you're not careful from back attacks. The combat feels really fair, and a couple of times I have almost 40 hours or over 40 hours in the game now, and I can count on one hand the number of times I felt like I got messed up by the RNG. It's not very common that ever happens, and even then, I could have probably survived if I was just a little bit more careful. I don't think there's a really situation where you're literally hard locked into a loss. There are situations where you will get a lot harder of a run just due to the nature of a roguelite in general. But I think if you're patient and you have enough items, then you can get through just about anything on Abomi Nation. Now, one thing I also really love about the combat in this game compared to a lot of roguelites I've been playing is you don't have to keep type chart in mind. Every time you click an ability, it will like show you a damage calculation that hovers over. It'll tell you exactly how much damage it does, and it will tell you why this damage calculation is the way it is. Now, this feature is something that I wish basically every game had. Like every Monstertaming game I play that doesn't have that feature, I feel like it is honestly clunky compared to Abomi Nation in that way, because it's just so easy. You don't have to learn the type chart. You don't have to try to pull out your calculator and determine, oh, how much special offense, how much physical defense, and so on and so forth does this creature have. I'm just going to go straight for it. There are also various mini games and such that you can play that will give you special rewards based on how much you have of a special stat. For example, if you go into a quiz, you will have, based on your special attack, how much time you have to finish the quiz, and you get asked questions, and then if you win, you get an item that gives you special attack. If you lose some special attack. So there's a bit of give and take on that part of it. As for the Abomis, we have well over 100 Abomis in the game at this point, and I think they're all pretty unique, and that brings us to the art style. You've been seeing plenty of it throughout so far. I personally love it. I think there's not basically any Abomis I don't think are at least well designed. There's some that might be personal preference. You might not like what they're based on, but I think you can at least appreciate that their art and animation is good. And I'm sure there's going to be something that pretty much everyone can find to like. The art will very much speak for itself over here, but overall, I like it. I enjoy it. If you like what you've seen so far, you'll probably enjoy it as well. Next, we have the music. I've been sampling a bunch of music in the background for the various combats and different zones. I think the music has a nice variety. Each zone has its own theme. It helps give zones identity. It doesn't really feel super repetitive. I'm always excited whenever I hear a song come on and stuff. I'm like, yeah, this is like a good song. I played, like I said, over 40 hours. And I haven't really grown tired of the soundtrack yet. And the combat music, I love it how it stops when one of your Abomis die in combat. It's just all music cuts out and you just sat there in a little somber moment of reflection. And then that would bring us around to the story. Now, the story is nothing like mind-blowing. It's all right. It's serviceable. It gets the gameplay. It's a roguelike game. You know, most of the time doesn't have the award-winning stories. But one thing I will say is the stories you can make yourself are great in this game. Because your Abomis have friendships, they have different natures and stuff, so they react differently. There's like little cutscenes with them interacting with each other. They'll reference Abomis who have died, and it just has a very thematic, and I think it's a wonderful, wonderful theme to the game. And as you play along, I suggest naming your Abomis. See a bunch of people do it, and when you name them, it'll hurt even more when they die, but it'll also make you be more connected to them when they survive and make you want to keep them living. That's one thing. I've never came so close to so many heart attacks in any game before I've ever played in my life, where we're just playing, one of my Abomis gets hit and he survives 1 or 2 HP, and I'm like, holy crap, I gotta get him out of there. He has to survive. For a lot of games, you're like, okay, whatever, he survived that attack, okay, I'm just gonna attack again with him, and then just squeeze that last little bit of extra damage out of him, or whatever, you know, before we get a free swap to someone else from them dying. But if you do have to sacrifice your Abomi, it is very painful. There are situations where you're like, I've backed myself into a corner, the only way to get out is to let this Abomi die so that my next one can come out without the swap penalty of spending a turn to swap. And those kind of stories of sacrifice and of doing everything you can to save somebody, just barely saving one of your Abomis, those stories that you weave yourself are very special and very unique in this game. And unlike most other monster taming games that do have some pretty solid stories, but they don't have that permadeath, and there's not like that detail of like how all your Abomis talk to each other and stuff. There's no trainer or tamer of any kind in Abomi Nation. It's just the Abomis themselves are sentient creatures who are friends, and they have personalities, and they go throughout and they react to the world around them in a way that is honestly pretty impressive for a small indie game like this to do. And if that doesn't sell it to you, then honestly, I don't think this is the game for you, because this is just what draws me back to it time and time again is the permadeath. It's the elegant combat, it's the cute art style, it's the cool monsters, it's the cute monsters, it's just everything about Abomi Nation. I just can't find it anywhere else. And so I'm constantly drawn back to it time and time again. But if you're at all interested, please check out my Let's Plays, check out the Abomi Nation Steam page, and at least consider giving it a wish list, if not purchase. It's also available for Xbox and Switch with a PlayStation port on the way. This has been Monstertaming Bisloba, signing off. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Goodbye, God bless, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.